Dude, big ups to my dad, bro. He literally stayed outside all day and fixed the yard up. And it looks beautiful out here. Actually, let me show you guys. Look, these are all the branches. Holy shit, dude. This whole back area was like all fucked, bro. There was just a bunch of stuff back there. And now it's entirely clean. And I think he's gonna start like doing and putting rocks and making this look beautiful. Wow, dude. Bless ups to Pops, bro. Bless ups to Pops, dude. This is like one side of the prayer sign, but bless ups, dude. How much shit there is, dude. And like there's so much stuff packed in those trash cans too. Yeah. Okay, well, today's vlog is actually daily vlog number 4. As you guys saw in the intro, I'm just gonna talk to you guys. You know, I actually did the past 2 daily vlogs have been mostly talking to you guys, but today I want to like talk more about my philosophy. And the other day I kind of like saw the short film and I wrote like a 4-page thing about my philosophy. It's like kind of a rant and it's not edited or unfinished, but I want to like read it out to you guys and then kind of explain my thoughts on it and just yeah. So let's go do that. Now that we're inside, let's get right to it. I got my laptop on the other side of the camera. Just gonna read off of it. It's gonna look like super ghetto, but you know, ghetto situations call for ghetto measures. So one of my main goals with this channel is getting you guys to think and do things for yourself. Like really think for yourself and not be manipulated by things. Like even the things that I say, I want you to think about them and really process them. My computer is right there. I'm going to be reading off of my computer. It's kind of a rant. I hope you guys can kind of piece it together. The reason I'm doing this is because even though it's not all cohesive, it's important. And I feel like it's stuff that you guys need to know. Because, yeah, it's just things that it's just food for thought. You know what I'm saying? It's food for thought. Just because something is good now doesn't mean it's good later. What you use to cope is what determines your habits, good and bad. What you do to help suffocate your worst comes out in your best. It's an endless cycle. The universe is so vast. Trying to figure out how everything works is not possible for a human. Instead, we use things like phrases, art, expression, religion, and belief to fill in those gaps. As humans, our main goal as a race is to progress. Anything that aids that progression will be fostered naturally. Knowing the truth will not necessarily help you. That doesn't mean you shouldn't look for it though. We operate in hive minds, pockets of influence. They control our decisions and beliefs if we aren't careful. Most of us are controlled by our vices. We chase the best feelings in every moment because we're also empty inside. That emptiness is caused and amplified by lack of purpose, especially with social media. The comparisons between one another and the constant hate and the motivation to go for material things over everything. We're being driven like sheep in a pasture. We disregard history and purposely withhold teaching it. We abstain from criticizing ourselves and our decisions because of our increased sensitivity to adversity. Whoever's running everything behind the scenes wants everyone to be sensitive and feel like they belong because then nothing will change. When there is no adversity, people will want to stay where they are. If taking away freedom of speech means less conflict, people will be okay with it, even if it's actually hurting them in the long run. We don't want change unless it's trendy, and we don't want stagnation unless it's relatable. As humans, we have to understand each other's faults and embrace our strengths. I swear it's possible to be friends with someone you disagree with philosophically. The only way we grow as people is through opposition. A counter to that would be in a perfect world with no opposition, we could grow and live healthily. But that's just not possible. So raising a kid with ideals like that is just as dangerous. In our current world and affairs, trying to shelter your children will only lead them to a dry watering hole. Do you want them to feel good now and be useless later? My main gripe with woke culture, especially when it comes to marginalized communities, is that the privileged people that are acting like superheroes to those marginalized communities don't understand that they are just sheltering them. Humans can be terrible, but that's just our nature. As much as we act like we embrace change, we hate it. We're selfish in that regard. Something that is out of the norm or weird will be ridiculed, But on the other hand, movements need to be made to change the norm. It's all about planting that seed. But the movements that change the ideas of the world are not meant to be in power because they're always too extreme. The only way to get an idea across is to bring the extreme to the forefront, then let it be debated and soaked in by the opposing side. Currently, we don't have that. We're fostering the extreme side and putting it in a position of power, i.e., the left. An extreme of any side should never be given power or the balance will be ruined. This is why we have a two-party system. But this extreme progressive movement is bringing about an equally as extreme opposition. This is only breeding more hate, which is in turn halting us as a society. Just as leftists are falling into the more communist approach and are embracing government control, the right is now veering towards embracing the exact opposite of everything the left is standing for. The two sides should always be looking to come towards the middle, but they're both going the opposite direction. I believe this won't last long. It's impossible. It can't last long. There's too much hate and tension that builds up because of it. With the addition of social media in the mix, it makes this even worse because now kids of the next generation are being raised on these split extreme ideas. Kids of this generation will be way less in tune to adversity because they won't know how to deal with it. If someone disagrees with them, they will learn to just block them out instead of reason and rationalize. We're raising a bunch of soldiers that are being taught how to follow orders. I've never heard a teacher tell kids to think about why they do things. They just tell them this is right and this is wrong, and the kids are forced to figure it out. Which is good in a society that teaches you those lessons through situations of opposition, but we don't have that anymore. Kids who can't think for themselves will just look for the group to think for them. Say they prescribe to any movement, and whatever that movement says they support. Well, guess what? Now governments will target that movement and seek to control them. Because if you control them, you control the people. That is the problem with uniformity. People won't want freedom of speech because they won't know the correct ways to use theirs. They'll only enjoy freedom of speech when it pertains to the movements they prescribe to. And this is dangerous because then the party in control will control what is considered good and bad. So that will silence the opposition further. That will silence. I feel like I'm doing like a fucking actor's read or some shit. This is the shit I wrote down. But it's like, and my laptop is behind the camera and it looks so unnatural. So that will silence the opposition, further alienating them, which will, in an extreme case, maybe lead to bloodshed. People don't understand that 50% of Americans voted for Donald Trump. So because of that decision, you're now alienating 50% of potential people you can meet and interact with. New ideas can't be... Okay, this is like a completely different fucking thought. I'm telling you, it's like a rant, but here we go. New ideas can't be introduced without bad ones. Ideas build on ideas. You'll never have the greatest idea ever without the bad ones. But if we censor the bad ones, then how will any of the common men create these ideas? I believe comedians are the answer to the rejuvenation of our society. By society, I mean American society. I can't speak for everyone else. They're one of the last art forms that haven't been censored and never will be. There's a consensus among its audience that they want the space to be kept pure. You can't cancel Dave Chappelle. He's one of the last well-respected honest voices of modern times. Hopefully we'll all be able to look in the mirror and realize how dumb we are before it's too late. And now we're off script. I kind of want to explain a little bit. So, people are like, oh, comedians, that's dumb and everything. But you have to understand that in every other form of media, there's censoring. And even the brightest minds of most of these forms of media can't get the exposure, the mainstream exposure that people like comedians can. You can't get a YouTube show or podcast that focuses on these controversial topics and everything on Netflix or on Hulu or on anything like that. Not saying any of these people need that, but to access people that only listen to mainstream content, it doesn't work. Especially like podcasts like Joe Rogan, like Russell Brand, like all these people who kind of just focus on rational thought. People who only listen to more traditional sides of media will never hear their opinions and actual takes because they're not exposed to this free media. And comedy is still in that traditional media. People who don't watch YouTube can still go on Netflix and watch Dave Chappelle. They can go on anything. Everybody knows who that is, right? So that's why I mean it's one of the forms of traditional media that is untouched and that it still has that reach and grasp. But that's why that's the last thing. So all in all, I'm literally just saying that as a society we need to reflect on ourselves and not just be drawn by our beliefs and really think about our beliefs, right? And not just believe things because people tell us to believe things, and not just agree with people because we generally have the same philosophies. You can't do that. You're just a sheep. You're a sheep. And one thing that my sister actually showed me the other night was this short story slash short film called Harrison Bergeron. Let me actually double check and make sure that's right. And yeah, Bergeron, Harrison Bergeron. I could be like butchering that, but it's this short story basically about a dystopian society where everybody is equal in everything, and they put on people who aren't, on people who can't be easily brainwashed by the government, they put things called limiters on them. And these limiters basically make it so anytime they feel like defying or feel like thinking in free thought, they're reminded of what could possibly happen to them every time they get flashbacks. And they're reminded of the consequences, and it's kind of a way of brainwashing them. And it only works with when their limiters are on. And it pretty much just shows you the dangers of trying to go for equality, because equality can't be achieved naturally. It doesn't work. It's not possible. So these things where we're trying to make everybody feel equal to everybody, there's obviously a balance, right? Like slavery is fucking terrible. Like things like that, having no rights. But it's about not trying to force people to see things the way they see things. Everybody internally has racist thoughts. Everybody internally like thinks they're the best thing in the world most of the time. You're the center of your own universe, right? So we can't try to control people's thoughts and perceptions. We can't do that. Because if you try to censor people and you try to control them, like say a person it just becomes fake. It becomes fake. It's just like now when you're in the workplace, right? You can't say what's on your mind. You can't say, even if you were a person who voted for Donald Trump. In most workplaces, if you said that, you're going to be alienated, because guess what? It's not politically correct. And now political correctness is becoming the norm, which it wasn't before. We left that to the politicians, right? But now you have to be politically correct. And if you're not, then you're automatically being put into boxes like, oh, this person is anti this, anti that. There's no way. If he has this opinion, then he has to be with this group. If he has this, it's like you have to understand that people are individuals. And your thoughts and your decisions shouldn't label you as anything other than that individual that you are. So think for yourself and don't be scared of being, because you have to understand that being a new age and being in this new age of free thinking and actually, thinking for yourself, you will be labeled as things for your decisions and thoughts. You won't be accepted. The easiest way to go about things right now is to just sit there and go with what everybody else is doing. If people are saying, or go with your side. If the left is saying, oh, this is bad, then you have to agree with the left, because then if not, then you're going to be labeled as the opposite. And you don't want that, because then you might lose friends, you might lose blah, blah, blah. And if you're on the right, then anything the right says, you have to go with that, because then you're going to be labeled as a leftist or anything like that. It's like, you have to understand that you can't avoid that if you're going to have your own thoughts and really think for yourself. You can't avoid being put in boxes. It's going to happen. I'm going to be talking about things like this, my whole life. My goal is to, wake people up. That's one of my things I want to do. Okay, cool. Daily vlog number 4 is over.